one way or the other.
And you'd like to do it without spending any money.
Well, that's the bottom line.
That would be a nice way to do
The
it.
least amount of money.
But if you have a piece of property that is ready, the subdivision done, the planning process done, it is now a lot more valuable than it is trying to sell it with a dirt pile on. If you got a piece of property that's worth $5 million when it's shovel ready, it's more saleable at that point. And we're not looking to take over control of this, and we're just making a suggestion. We're trying to open a dialogue and say to you, let's see what we could do to help put some properties back on the tax rolls.
Walk me through this a little bit more, because you know a lot more about it than I do. So, the RFP, we would have our engineer put together this RFP and then put it out there to other engineering firms.
And see what, just see what comes of it. There might be some, somebody like Zuckerman might come along and say, hey, we'd be interested in doing this if we can take it through the process. We would like to own 50% of it and take off the stockpile.
I mean, this is a concept, and we've talked about it in general terms, but I think what the Chamber is doing is giving a clear, more specific way forward to actually get moving on it. Because I don't think we need to wait here from the DEC. I think it'd be helpful.
I think it's,
but at the same time, I think if we had a clear route forward, it wouldn't hurt to start moving.
My only reason for raising that issue is because it makes the onus of what the responsibility is going to end up being more clear once we have their response. And I think as well, we don't have to halt anything or not proceed because of that. I think I don't want there to be any unrealistic.
Right. I mean, the result, either way, the result's going to be, we know we have to move the dirt at some point. So I think if we move forward saying, okay, we know that at some point in the future, we know there's not going to be a stockpile there, we can still, start moving forward.
I think along the lines of what Ray and Maureen are saying, it's something that we talked about. At the end of the day, we're talking about getting things on the tax roll. We even assumed the possibility that if it's going to cost us $5 million to move this stockpile, and it was a wash, if we had someone come along and said, we'll take it with the stockpile for nothing.
We were happy.
We might even still be ahead of the game because then it would be on the tax roll.
Exactly.
I just want to give you this is a copy of the properties that are off the tax rolls. So I don't know if it's in the village and some of the town, and there's an awful lot of them.
And what we did do on our end was go through this list and determine that probably this piece of property would give the village the best bang for its buck, number one. And number two, it was the one that we felt that the public would have the least attachments toward.
I agree with you.
It's a dirt pile. If you start looking at some of these other properties, well, it's a this and a that, and it's been there for so long, and how can you, think about that? And obviously, the religious institutions and things like that won't be changed. But this was something that we thought, if there was an opportunity for the village to move ahead and gain some revenue out of this, it would be.
Well, luckily we're all on the same wavelength. This, so it looks like a very workable, way to.
There are some other benefits to the development of that property too. I mean, it is yours. You could possibly move the DPW to a piece of that land. I'm sure you might have thought about that sometime, getting it out of the village, and shifting some of the things around. For instance, if you were to, they didn't want me to discuss it, but I'm going to throw it out. Throw it out there just to give you some thought. We have been thinking about this for quite some time. If the DPW were moved out to that piece of land now, which is it's a natural place for it. I mean, I think you're already utilizing part of it right now.
Yeah.
So it's a natural place to get the DPW out of the center of the town, which is a nuisance to the surrounding residents. They got to come in at 4 o'clock in the morning and start the trucks up to go plow the snow. But you also have another piece of property that is owned, that you own, the village owns and uses for a police station. It's a very viable commercial piece of property.
We talked about, I've talked about that, because that
moving the police station to where the DPW is, it frees up that area out, the DPW goes out there, now you have a saleable piece of property. I'm going to say, even in this market, that police station is worth $500,000.
Sure.
But it also opens up another opportunity for you, because you need to expand parking downtown. And if the DPW were not there, that area they're using for their trucks and so on could be used to expand your parking, which then could open up an opportunity for you to go back to a payment in lieu of parking for some of these things. Now you have a designated area that you can develop, you can utilize that, you can direct your money there, you can put your payment in lieu of parking back there. Another piece of property that you have off is where that garage is at the DPW, the front's on Montgomery Street.
Right,
That's zone R2.
yeah.
It's a very valuable piece of property. That's probably worth a couple $100,000 so that it could be put back on the tax rolls as well. So, you know, I have an opportunity to do several things with the progression of all of this. Okay?
And I know that Michael has certainly thought about, we discussed DPW garage placement.
Well, I know that, as Ray said, that's been discussed since I've been involved, so this has been going on for years about moving the DPW and having the police move, and then possibly even having courts move with the police to move that all down into the area, so I know that this has been discussed for quite a long time.
If we do want to go forward with marketing that site, I'd be happy to take the lead for the village if we need someone to step up, involved in Cornerstone. So if the village does want to pursue it, then, you know, I'd be happy to be the individual.
Well, I think that before let me say it very positively, I think we are pursuing it. I think that in pursuing it, we lay out our program for what it is we want to do, and we have to talk with Michael and the chief and these people to get their feeling about the whole thing as well. I'd be interested in their reaction to this.
To marketing the site, or?
No.
You're
To the plan. We're talking about the plan.
Yeah, but one has nothing to do with the
No,
other.
I understand that.
I'm talking solely about.
Marketing the site is something we have always been in favor of doing.
I think just for clarification.
We've always been.
We're here really just to talk about that one parcel on 17M, not about doing anything else separately. So just for clarification purposes, we just want to keep it to the site on 17M, and then whatever happens, you know, once that's sold, or once you pursue that, then some of the other components can be brought in. But, you know, we're here because, as everybody knows, the tax burden is outrageous. And, you know, getting properties back on the tax rolls is very, very important for the businesses and for the residents. So, you know, maybe just, you know, to separate that out, just to keep it to the...
The only reason we can't truly separate it out is if we have to retain some of it. If we need to retain some of it for the DPW.
Oh, no,
all I'm saying is that we need to have the whole picture of what it is we want to do before we proceed.
Of course.
That doesn't mean we're not proceeding. We put that all together first, and then
I think
before we go to market.
we're talking about a logical progression
Yeah.
of ideas we've all talked about,
Yeah.
which would be to move forward a little bit in a more practical way, that rather than just theorizing about what we might do with it. I think it's a great idea.
The most
Me
important
too.
component of all of this, other than putting this back on the tax rolls, is to get this done without any cost to the
Right.
village.
Without
And there are ways to do this. I mean, there are ways to make all of these moves we're talking about without any expense to the taxpayers. Just by sale of these properties, or contract going into sale, money's up front, money in escrow, things of that nature. You know, I'll be glad to discuss any of that with you.
Sounds it's a natural partnership.
Okay, good. Very good.
And I'm going to give you something else. This is, again, this is from the county tax property from online. So the money that they talk about, the assessment is 2010 based from the town assessor. But this is without the stockpile, obviously, but this is unimproved. So, you know, once the property is improved and shovel-ready, the assessment obviously would go up, and so would the marketable value go up. And as it is now, without stockpile, it's $1.1 million is the full market value. The assessed value is $600,000, and that's 50 acres of land, 50 or so acres of land, but that's unimproved. So
I know I sound like the woe-betide here, but the
The what?
stockpile, woe-betide,
Which means?
woe-betide, oh my God.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a lovely number, but the stockpile makes all the difference in the
Oh,
world.
it does. And I think that's, the thing is that we're trying to do here is to say, you know, there are developers out there that might be willing to relieve you of that burden, because it is going to be a burden to the village, and there might not be. But I think it's, we think that it's worth pursuing.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think it would be less costly for a private developer,
Yeah.
so that's certainly
For
their
sure.
village.
Usually, it always, always that way.
Especially because somebody had the vehicles and all that kind of